Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 22 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 116 today for the Brazilian Grand Prix in Season 7. If you guys did miss the previous episode uploaded just yesterday, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. Really treating you guys for the end of the season, as there may or may not be some juicier content from a different game on the way. So we're looking to finish this season actually a little bit quicker than I originally planned. And to be fair, coming off the back of that Canadian Grand Prix, just in a good vibe with where we are in this season, performance levels, doing a fantastic job at taking the mediums all the way to the end of the race. A lot of tyre wear, but controlling the pace and winning the third Grand Prix of this season with a great strategy. Others doing a two-stop and pitting again the likes of Schumacher and Hamilton, who were actually first and second respectively for a large part of that first part of the race, but we just came through with a much better strategy, just going on to mediums from intermediates, taking the lead and then never looking back. And it means now we're back into the lead of the Drivers' Championship. I honestly did not think we were going to be in this position going into Canada, but after it, with Lando Norris having a howler as he was knocked out in Q2, never recovered after also a first lap incident where he had to pit for a broken front wing. So not only myself, but likes of Leclerc, Schumacher, Piastri, Hamilton, we all benefited from that in terms of closing up, and it's supremely fine in the top there. You know, the top 5 covered by only a handful of points really, so it's all to play for. We've only got 3 rounds left into Sao Paulo, then comes thick and fast the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and then Abu Dhabi, the final race and episode on F1 22 when it comes to My Team Career Mode. So we're going into the race weekend then for Sao Paulo. Of course, a sprint weekend, so qualifying here on the Friday, the sprint race on the Saturday, and then the full Grand Prix on Sunday. And we're looking to take the momentum we've got from Montreal into this race weekend. Not just me, also our teammate Lewis Hamilton, who now has back-to-back third places, back-to-back podiums. That is, he's in a good place, I think, and he showed some real good pace, to be fair. You know, if it wasn't for me, he would have been in a top 2 there. He was only just behind Mick Schumacher. The two of them could not be separated. And I wonder, maybe at this crucial part of this season, are Audi starting to falter a little bit, because Tsunoda is knocked out in Q1. Not ideal for him. To be fair, Lando's up there in Q1 alongside Lewis Hamilton, just one position below him, so we'll see how he does. But it was a really massive weekend to forget for them in terms of operationally. Lando being knocked out in Q2, then the lap 1 incident. They never looked back from that. They were never going to recover from that. And into this weekend, not only do we have momentum, Vettel Rennsport do with Schumacher, even Leclerc, you know, as much as he's had not the best races, he's still always there in qualifying. He's maybe been the best qualifier this entire season, Leclerc has, in that Gulf Porsche Williams. All of us into the top 10 shootout though. Leclerc, myself, Piastri, Hamilton, Norris, Schumacher, and also Drugovich as well, the other Vettel Rennsport car. So for the constructors, that's important, because we did take the lead of the Constructors' Championship, but it's going to be a very tough fight. We need to make sure we keep on performing like we did at Canada, because Drugovich and Schumacher, even when they don't get on the podium, they're still both just together in the top 5, it would seem, for a lot of these races, and that gets a lot of points to the Constructors' Championship as a pairing. So we keep on going and we try and do the best job we can on that first flying lap. It's only good enough though for P6, unfortunately. I thought that was a much better lap than it was, and others have gone much quicker. And then to my kind of, you know, confusion, I just didn't go any quicker on the second flyer. You know, we're only just narrowly going to match our first flying lap, you know, a little bit slower by a few hundredths of a second. You know, very puzzling. I thought we had a bit more pace in the tank, but no, that's the highest we can go. P6, to be fair. Lando Norris down in P10, so what happened there? I mean, he's clearly been held up by a bit of traffic or just didn't get the lap time in. Very baffling. So as of late, you know, has Lando's AI lost a bit of focus now from these shaky races that have just gone by, especially the last race? Is that now him maybe in a really bad headspace as an AI with the focus levels? And, you know, vice versa. Like I said, Leclerc on a another pole position. That man, just over one lap, has definitely been the quickest man this entire season. But obviously, all the points come on race day. So can he convert that pole for the sprint race into a sprint win? And then effectively, obviously, full pole position for Sunday's Grand Prix. We'll see. He's got both Vettel Rennsport cars just behind him. Hamilton's up there in P4. And from P6 on the grid, we can still do some good work here. Get a couple of points in this sprint race and then set ourselves up really well for tomorrow's Grand Prix. We're alongside Oscar Piastri on the third row as he is in P5 in the Repsol Haas. He's still within a shout mathematically of the championship. So very exciting stuff. The top 6 all in the championship fight as we go to 5 red lights to the sprint race here in Sao Paulo. It's a bit doom and gloom, overcast conditions. Don't think there's any rain on the way, but what is doom and gloom is my race start there. Shocking amount of wheel spin. We get dive bombed by Norris, who's climbed up from P10 to P7. What a start for the Brits in the Audi. Russell got us off the line with that really poor exit off the 5 red lights. That was just a shocking bit of traction. Maybe the worst start we've had all season, but we'll get right back underneath the rear wing of our fellow compatriot onto lap 2, trying to make this overtake. We both are going to go for the move on George Russell. In unison, we get past the silver arrow. Fantastically aggressive from myself and Norris. Both of us have been locked in to this championship fight all season long. And it looks like, you know, that motivation is still there maybe, but the Audi just not looking fully on the pace here, as maybe as the Haas as well. Piastri failing to keep up with the top 4 as we're going to try and get round the outside. A bit of contact made into turn 1 as we try and go the long way around. Eventually we will seal out P5 and we can chase after the top 4, and it's led by Mick Schumacher. Drugovich P2. It's a 1-2 for Vettel Rennsport. That is not great news for us as a team. Myself and Hamilton, we have to try and do something about that. So Leclerc, once again, for all the pole positions and front rows he's had, he's lost first place, and now he's just lost 2 positions there as we dive bombed Hamilton. And whilst we're at it, I just saw Leclerc going so slow at the apex. I thought, hang on a minute, I can just go down the inside of him as well. Why wait about? And we got the move done. We went a bit wide in doing so, and so Hamilton got this switch back on us from left to right. So he's up into 3rd, we're into 4th, but Leclerc, it's just really another nightmare of a situation and a race situation for him as he's gone from P1 to P5. He's trying to make it a P4 as he comes back at us now on the inside. We break early, cut in time for the switch right to left on the outside now for the exit of this Senna S, and we are going to get back into P4 and have DRS to pull away, break the toe from Leclerc, and hopefully we're just now going to look forwards rather than backwards, to be honest, in this race, as we've got a couple of laps left of this sprint on this Saturday to try and even improve our position from P4 maybe hopefully myself and Hamilton can attack the 2 Vettel Rennsport cars as Lando gets up into P6 ahead of Oscar Piastri, recovering a couple of positions more. As we now watch on lap 10, the 2 leaders, the 2 teammates having a battle as Drugovich dives down the inside. The Brazilian in his home race, of course, trying to go for glory here on the Saturday sprint to get up into P1. Schumacher comes back in, the 2 are side by side, nearly making contact up the hill, and Hamilton with a huge amount of oversteer, but Drugovich has the better racing line and does get up into 1st place. It's still a 1-2 for Vettel Rennsport, but now the Brazilian leads in his home race in front of the home fans. Schumacher 2nd, but that might change because look at Schumacher going for the move at turn 1 to take the lead back. They've made more contact. They're slowing each other up, and that's going to invite Hamilton and myself into this on the 2nd last lap of the Grand Prix. Drugovich and Schumacher jostling, and there goes Lewis Hamilton down the inside of both of them. Contact between him and the Brazilian, and we're going to follow him through like a horse to our carriage up into 2nd place. We've done this switcheroo on our rivals, our closest team to us in the Constructors' Championship. From a 3-4, it's become a 1-2 on the Saturday. What a result. Hamilton, though, electric pace on the last lap, pulls away from us. I'm happy, though, to settle for 2nd place. Hamilton takes the victory here on the Saturday. Absolutely limbs being sent in the garage with 2 laps to go. We switched it round, 3-4 to 1-2. Absolutely biblical stuff. That was excellent. That was the perfect sort of overtaking scenario. Hamilton gets both of them. We follow him through, get Schumacher, get Drugovich on the exit after they made contact. Wonderful stuff there. Leclerc finishes up in... Actually, you know what? It's even better. Leclerc finishes P4. Schumacher, I think he got overtaken by Leclerc whilst he got squeezed down all of that. So Schumacher's actually down to P5. So they didn't even get a 2x2 finishing result. In the end of it, Piastri also re-overtook Norris for P6, so a really tough day in the office for the once championship leader, the man who's been so consistent this entire season. At the crucial moment of the season, he's starting to get flustered and falling over himself a little bit, because Leclerc now is up to second place in the championship. He's the one closest to me in the standings, and after that 1-2, we've now got a 14-point breather gap to Vettel Rennsport in the Constructors' Championship. So things are looking very good, but you may have noticed in that race, if you go back, look at the bottom right, we had an orange icon for our engine, and our internal combustion engine, the last one we're on, is very worn out now. It's getting to, what's that, like 60%? Yeah, 62%. And the other two engines we've already used in the season, they're even worse. We've got 3 races to go, 3 full ones, because we've still got a full Brazilian Grand Prix to race, and then Jeddah and Abu Dhabi. So I am thinking, looking at the pace Hamilton showed, even the pace I had in that sprint, I reckon it might be best to take that engine penalty and get a fresh engine in this episode, because Jeddah, you know, yeah, you can make overtakes, but nothing's guaranteed in a tight street circuit like that, and I absolutely do not want to be at the back of the grid for obviously the last race of the season, of the game. So I'm gonna take the penalty, take the hit for a new internal combustion engine this episode, and I've got to hope that the pace we just showed in that sprint is going to allow us to, you know, limit the damage and hopefully come back through for some decent points versus our rivals. We've got the points gap in the championship to do such a thing, and you know, when you've got such a tight fight like this, you've got to think tactically and, you know, mathematically about it. And so when I'm looking at the equation of this season, I think it makes sense to take the penalty now rather than Jeddah and Abu Dhabi. So we're going to do that, and we're going to start at the back of the Sunday Brazilian Grand Prix, having just got a 1-2, and let's see if we can try and join Hamilton towards the front if he's going to try and convert that pole to another win for the full Grand Prix tomorrow. Let's go to the grid.
Formula One returns to Interlagos once again, with the stage set for what promises to be another classic Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel famously clinched his 3rd championship here in 2012, and just 4 years later, Max Verstappen treated us to one of the finest wet weather drives of all time. It's an unusual anti-clockwise race here at Interlagos, where the Sao Paulo locals are packed into the grandstands at each of the 15 corners around this classic 2.7-mile circuit. 2 very fast sections bookend the famous and highly technical Sector 2, where getting a good run out of Junsao into one of the 2 DRS zones will be key to any overtaking prospects today. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and the owner-driver alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Leclerc, Mick Schumacher, Lando Norris and Russell, Fernando Alonso, Sainz, Liam Lawson and Kevin Magnussen, Ricciardo, Sargent, Nico Hülkenberg and Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Théo Pourchaire, Alex Albon and Pierre Gasly, Schwartzman, Perez, Tsunoda. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat is Anthony Davidson. And our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching out for as they head into turn 1?
Well, the start of the race is always one of the most nerve-wracking parts. You have to hope that everyone is able to get off to a clean start, and this is possibly the trickiest part of the entire race. So many drivers in such a small space, and finding your braking point into turn 1 as well. It's a testament to the driver's skill that there aren't more incidents.
So the stage is set. We're going to have to make an almighty comeback in this race, but you know, the pace we showed in that sprint race was very promising. I mean, Hamilton was in a different world, though. I don't know what the hell he's on. I mean, to be fair, you know, he was given a citizenship, wasn't he, here for Brazil? So, you know, taking the home crowd energy and really is channeling the best fans' energy into that drive he had at the end of the sprint. And the way he pulled away from me on the last lap was insane. So, you know, from pole position, I think he's got a very good chance of a third win for himself this season, of course, because he's got 2 wins. We've got 3 after Canada, so he might be on to something. But for us, well, we're alongside an Audi. It's not the one we care about, though. It's Sonoda, one of my old teammates from a previous season. He's altered down here on the last row of the grid, so we might have some company that's a bit more competitive than we're looking at. But the cars ahead of us, the Aston Martin, Ferrari, all should be easy pickings, but it's going to be tough either way still to make a way through. We absolutely have to make sure we keep our nose clean. There can't be any kerfuffles with any cars through this one if we want to make that kind of comeback, as we go to 5 red lights now, 3 rounds to go. The Brazilian Grand Prix is underway, and we are going from the back of the grid, and we're going to see how turn 1 goes. It's a good start for us on the inside. 1, 2, 3, 4 cars maybe overtaken already into turn 1, as there was a large amount of space on that inside just inviting us for the overtakes, and we're up into P18, but there's still so many positions to go, and there's going to be a lot of time loss in the upcoming corners, because look at this, it's nearly 3 wide between Albon, Pourchaire, and Piastri, who's also down the order. I think he also took a penalty, must have done, if he's down in P15 from where he was, but I think that was pre-planned versus my penalty that sent me to the back of the grid. We nearly hit the back of the Repsol Hashtag, avoiding action as we see his teammate Hulkenberg going side by side with Verstappen. We're pinched out by Oscar very aggressively. Meanwhile, here's a replay of how the start went for Hamilton, and it was a shocking one for him. So we had a poor one on Saturday, and it's Hamilton's turn to have one in the team on Sunday, it would seem, as Leclerc even tries to get him down to P3. But the Brazilian, the home favourite, Drugovich, up into the lead of the Grand Prix then. So the crowd will be loving that. Hamilton pulls through to come back for P2. Bit of contact with Leclerc. They're still fighting for it, but I think Hamilton has the better momentum here. The Gulf Porsche Williams trying his best. And in P4 is George Russell, of all people, in the Silver Arrow, out of place, but doing very well on this race start. But yeah, Drugovich into P1 in his home full Grand Prix. It was a bit of a disaster in the sprint, falling away from him, but maybe this might be a better time for him on the Sunday, as we now go back to the action for ourselves, and we're boxed in between the Haas cars and the Ferrari of Verstappen, another one of our former teammates, obviously, when we drove for Ferrari in the My Team career mode season. And as we go through for the double overtake, reminiscing about that, Verstappen aggressive as ever, as we knew him as a teammate, gets back down the inside of Piastri. Instead, we have to just settle for the overtake right now on Hulkenberg. But can we just slip through on the inside of Verstappen, go to the racing line, squeeze him out? Verstappen still tries it, but we're going to hold off and remain in P14, and then just wait for the opportunity to arise as Hamilton sets a fastest lap of the Grand Prix. We ease by Piastri up into P13 now, but there's still a long way to go in terms of positions, a long way to go in this race, as we've only got through 3 laps. Ricciardo, Magnussen, Lawson, Sainz ahead of us. The 2 Andrettis doing very well, both in the points at this stage, and actually keeping up with Lando Norris in the Audi. So just, again, showing what has gone wrong for Lando here from the last episode to this one. He just doesn't look like that same on-the-pace man in the last couple of episodes before the Canadian Grand Prix. Schumacher P5, Russell still stays in P4 in the Mercedes. Hamilton is chasing Drugovich. He's pulled away from Leclerc, and on lap 4, he's immediately going to go for the move inside DRS now as well. On the inside, Lewis with a really late brake zone gets it down the inside. The two will be neck and neck now through the exit. Drugovich on the inside now for the next run run up the hill. Hamilton the long way round, the two jockeying for position, the two wobbling about, trying to play a bit of chicken of who's going to let go of the throttle first. Hamilton is not, and he's going to get through up into P1 of the race. It's taken him 4 laps to recover from that poor start, but he's done it, and he now leads the way and can hopefully, for our sake, for the team's sake, control the race and just do what Hamilton is known for doing best sometimes in those situations, as we now make quick work of Ricciardo drifting through the Senna S on these soft tyres. You know, we've opted for softs along with a lot of other people because I just wanted pure out-and-out pace. And to be fair, the strategy said there would be just a one-stop from soft to mediums. There are a few medium tyre runners who, I don't know, they might be going for a medium to hard, maybe a medium to softs, I don't know, but we make quick work of Magnussen as well. Bit of a battle through the first 2 turns, but eventually we get him and will now overtake Liam Lawson in the Red Bull Ford. No match for the pace of our car with ERS, DRS as well, as we now are setting fast laps of the Grand Prix ourselves in clean air, as we now watch on Leclerc. Oh, right to left, and he's gone for it down the inside of Drugovich. He's taken him wide, and the Williams might just ruin the party for the home favourite. No, Drugovich remains in second place, but that was a really aggressive move from Leclerc. Fake to the right, go to the left, and this time he'll just simply go to the right, stick that racing line there. Drugovich defends on the inside. Bit of contact made between the Vettel Rennsport car and the Williams, but you know, Leclerc is one of those guys who's on medium. So is this the crossover period on lap 8? Is this the sign that all of us on soft tyres, our tyres are starting to go off potentially, as those guys fight so much? We're now not even too far off Leclerc there, to be honest, as we're in the train that is tail-ended by me, Sainz, Sargent ahead of us. Then, you know, ahead of him, you've got Alonso, and then it's Lando Norris, one of our championship rivals. So things are looking immediately a lot better now on lap 9 than they did on lap 3, and it's all thanks to some fighting between the cars ahead of us as we make a bit of a dicey move on Carlos Sainz, very close to making some contact, and at that speed, that could have been deadly for our front wing. Thankfully made it through, and now we're closing up to Logan Sargent, the first of the 2 Andretti Hondas. Oh, but a bit of massive wheel spin and tank slapper and oversteer all together, and we lose a bit of time there, get a bit flustered, a lot of oversteer now. Sainz does the same though through that last left-hander. So as we climb the hill, we've lost about a second to Logan Sargent, so we have to recompose, and we actually won't get a chance to have a go at him on track because we're now coming in with his teammate Fernando Alonso, Schumacher as well, as all of us on soft tyres are looking to come in now, lap 12 onto lap 13, and it will be just the medium tyre runners that carry on. So Leclerc will actually take the lead of the Grand Prix eventually, and you know, the fact that he overtook Drugovich and is ahead of him now, just showing that the medium tyre, you know, past lap 8 was definitely the better race tyre after that point. But you know, I'm glad we went on softs because we made the most of it, but now we're on the mediums ourselves. Bit of a cold set of medium tyres, I must say, as we almost whack it into the wall there. So we are playing with fire a little bit, pushing quite hard to try and bank up these positions. And we need to be careful that one of these mistakes and, you know, snaps of oversteer doesn't result in us in the wall. But we are now on mediums ourselves, and apparently we're going to the end of the Grand Prix according to my engineers on the strategy. So we'll see about that. We're going to have to see how long Leclerc takes those mediums and if they really will go the distance, because this is quite some way to go from lap 12 to lap 36, but that's what the numbers are telling us with the strategy screen, so we'll just see. But we make easy work of Sergio Perez in a backmarker Aston Martin, and we're going to be coming out very close to Sargent. It's going to be wheel to wheel. Sargent almost tries to maybe hit us a little bit on the exit of the pit exit, but we're up into P11 now in the sandwich of Andretti Honda, and we're closing up to Fernando, the lead of those 2 cars, and right up ahead of him is Mick Schumacher. So we are actually now in some juicy territory near some of our championship rivals, and we're going to sense Alonso napping a little bit. He left the door open. We're now side by side, but Fernando, always the wily old fox, defending well, gets back ahead of us, cuts across. We're going to come back at him though with another dive bomb. Alonso leaves the door open, but he's trying to fight it on the exit once again, but we just have the better downforce versus the Andretti car to get up into P10, into the points paying positions for the first time in this race. We've got 20 laps to go though, so still plenty to fight for in this race as we are now racing Mick Schumacher. What a fall from grace this has been. He was leading the sprint race at one point on Saturday, but now he's down here in P9 in the full Grand Prix. Where's the pace gone? The race pace for Vettel Rennsport. You know, the sprint, it seemed to be there, but maybe with, you know, higher fuel levels, maybe more tyre wear to deal with, the Vettel Rennsport cars aren't finding this track so suitable to them, and Drugovich is getting flustered and stuck behind George Russell, who's been here the entire time. He somehow just appeared in P4 at the start of the race, and he's pretty much just been annoying everyone who's behind him as we now look to make the move on not only him but Drugovich. Can we go for the 2-for-1 as Drugovich gets caught up behind the Silver Arrow? We do make the overtake up to P5, and Drugovich is still having to fight Russell. For whatever reason, he just hasn't had the tools in his arsenal to overtake him up until now, where he finally does on lap 18, but the damage has been done. Leclerc is ahead of him, ahead of Schumacher. He's ahead of me, but he's on hard tyres now, so that's where Leclerc's come out. Magnussen yet to pit. Tsunoda as well yet to pit. Norris has pit. He started on mediums with Leclerc, but he's had a torrid time. That Audi was horrendous on those mediums, and he's out of the points at this stage. Lap 20, we're up to P3, because eventually Magnussen and Tsunoda did pit. So we now just have one more position to go, and we can make it a 1-2 again for AAR Archer Racing. We power past Leclerc. He's on the outside. Leclerc locks up. It's a bad error at the worst time possible, and he's down to P3. And it is once again a 1-2 for AAR Archer Racing, and it only took 20 laps of 36, showing right now this My Team car has some great pace around Sao Paulo, but 10 or 11 laps later rather, lap 31, look at my tyres on the bottom right, orange icon. Yeah, cool, these mediums will go the distance easy. Yeah, no, not so much. They're now wearing out, and Leclerc, he's been behind us the entire time. I actually built the gap up to about 4 seconds, and then it's come crashing down because his hard tyres have lasted. So Leclerc's played the long game with me, and on to lap 34, his hard tyres now are much better than my mediums. He goes round the outside. We try and defend by bouncing back at him into turn 1, but I just don't have the traction on him, and oh god, it's another little error there, and that could have been really bad because that could have been a full-on spin on the curb at high speed. The two Vettel Rennsport cars are now behind me, and Schumacher looks to try and overtake. Oh, Drugovich! No! The home favourite's going to end his home race in misery. He's crashed with George Russell. Russell's got no front wing. Drugovich has got damage. And that means Lando Norris will somehow, through all of this, be elevated and finish up in P5, actually. The Audis have really not liked this circuit, but he's going to somehow finesse his way into the top 5. And it's all from Drugovich and Russell making contact. But it was actually because of Schumacher. Schumacher dived down the inside of his own teammate, forced him wide, and Russell tried to follow him through. So yeah, Schumacher just taking matters into his own hands for his own fight in the championship, much to the detriment of his own teammate and maybe the constructors even. But lap 35, there's still a fight for us versus that man Schumacher, and we're really struggling on these mediums. It's another bout of oversteer in that same corner on the exit of the Senna S. Schumacher gets past us. We're going to try and come back at him though with ERS and make a large dive bomb, and just manage to steer the ship of the front end through that corner, but Schumacher pounces in the middle of sector 2, and we get crossed up again. We're having a nightmare with the tyre wear here at Sao Paulo. Norris is past us. No, we can't have this. This can't happen. We get back past the Audi. That absolutely was not happening, but look at the tyre wear, over 70% for the front tyres, and that's why I've got no turning. And then on the exit of these corners, the rear right's also pretty poor, but we've got 1 lap left to go. We've got back ahead of the Audi, but I want to chase back after Mick Schumacher, but a man who has had none of these problems is Lewis Hamilton. I mean, he might be facing some tyre wear, but it won't matter because he's 18 seconds ahead of Leclerc on the hard compound. So as much as Leclerc is probably the quicker man at this stage of the race now, Hamilton has dominated this Brazilian Grand Prix ever since he got back into first place on lap 4, was it? But we are now back underneath the rear wing of Schumacher, because although I'm struggling, got to remember, Schumacher and every other medium tyre runner, they're also facing the same tyre wear, and in a straight line, I've got the pace on the Vettel Rennsport car. My setup has been absolutely on it for this Brazilian Grand Prix. Ran a little bit lower rear wing than I usually do, and it's paid its dividends, and it's going to pay its dividends here through the final corners. We're just going to set this up, try and get on the power as early as we dare, plant the power, ERS there, DRS will come for us, and we're chasing, and we're going to get Mick Schumacher on to the finish line. Just get up into a podium position, making a double podium for AARava Archer Racing. Hamilton wins the Grand Prix, Leclerc second, ourselves third. And, you know, those 3 more points could be crucial by the end of the season. You never know.
A great race then, very much as we've come to expect. And a fantastic victory here at Interlagos. Tell me, Ant, how do they manage to achieve this win?
Well, time management probably played quite a large role in the outcome of this one. As ever, it's not just about speed, it's all about maintaining that speed consistently over a stint, over a race distance. So being able to keep up the lap times while still being smooth on the controls and gentle on the tyres, that's really where the race was won today.
The faces on our top 3 look so incredibly happy as they make their way up to the podium. A much-deserved victory and a brilliant performance from them all.
Today is Lewis Hamilton's day, though. He's won the sprint and he's won the full Grand Prix. No one could touch him, not even me in the same car. I don't know what that pace was from him. 18 seconds ahead of Leclerc. Ridiculous. I mean, Leclerc had enough pace on the hards eventually, because of the tyre wear differences, that he just caught me very easily and pulled away from us. It was only a matter of time, to be honest now, looking back at it, of when Leclerc would overtake us, not rather if, because, yeah, in hindsight, maybe should have gone to the hard tyres myself, but I trusted the engineer's strategy, as did most of the cars here on the circuit. A lot of us went on to mediums to the end, and then a lot of us struggled there, but somehow Norris came through for P5, then, of course, with Drugovich and Russell crashing. The only big loser was Piastri, yes, who's fallen out of favour in the championship now into the last 2 rounds, down to P6, but Leclerc is 6 points behind us in P2. Then there's a bit of a gap, 10 points now, and then look at that, level on points. Hamilton, Norris, Schumacher, unbelievable. 2 rounds to go, 3 of them on the same points, but that is 10 points back from Leclerc, so all 3 of them are going to need to step up their game, and it looks like going to the last 2 rounds, after all of that, it's not going to be me versus Lando Norris, it's going to be me versus Charles Leclerc, the man who we've made so much contact with all season, the man who's had so many problems with me and just crashed into me all season. We're going up against him in the championship, so it's like it's meant to be. So there's certainly probably going to be a fiery last 2 races at Jeddah and Abu Dhabi, but that's been a cracking episode for this team in the constructors and in terms of just what we saw today. Hamilton dominating back to his best, and it's a great drive for us to recover from last to a podium. Guys, if you have enjoyed that one, be sure to hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.